Yes, I am here, and you could say I've been circling around. And so, as the vehicle is asking what my name is, what he should call me, and where I am residing at currently, I will just state that he has already been given the name I do prefer, which is Hong, or if you would like to be more formal, Mr. Hong will suffice. And as far as where my overall conscious awareness is residing at this time, you could say I did split myself off from me in the seventh dimension from your reference point, as I did want to go back to what you could say is my main split point, where I did break off to have these many 3D experiences that I did have. And yet, of course, for this conversation, as you are wanting more of a direct reference point of me in that lifetime. And so, what I wanted to share is essentially, as I did say, I was circling around. This is a great reference point to how I did participate in this lifetime that you are referencing me. And while I do not prefer the title that has been given to me of Confucius, that is the lifetime I am referencing. And so essentially, I did recognize from a fairly young age that it did serve me well to observe, and to observe and question deeply. And it did not take very long of observing before I did begin making many connections. And as the culture I did grow up in was quite based on sayings and various expressions of essentially what you would call metaphor or analogy, I did become quite proficient at this, as not only was I observing the people around me and their interactions and the smaller intricacies of them that most overlook, but I was also observing the world around me as well. There was a small stream nearby that I did like to visit and just observe. I found it quite peaceful and even a bit perplexing to recognize that the ground and the rocks and pebbles that I saw in this stream did stay exactly in place. And yet, the water did always move. What I found perplexing was the fact that if I did put a leaf in the flow of this water, it would disappear fairly quickly. And so this made me contemplate on the drops of water. How many drops did it take to make up a stream such as this? And once the drops of water or the rain did enter the stream, did they still exist? Or did they become just a part of a greater whole? And where did this greater whole start and where did it end? And so there was many questions that I did have with this, and so this did get my curious mind quite fired up. And so I did begin making these comparisons as not only was I observing the world around me and the people around me, but I was observing myself quite deeply. And so you could say that the water and the pebbles within was one great comparison point that I began to make. And so for a reference point, I did notice that oftentimes it did seem that my mother was very much like the pebbles in the stream. She was solid, she was firm, and she was very aware of where she stood. And when she did set her mind on something, she was very immovable. And yet, many times, my father was more like the water in this stream, as he did wrap around, he did flow around my mother and the work that I did see him do. He was just in flow, always moving, never being stopped up or held back by anything. And yet I also did notice that there was times that the roles would switch. For example, when I would observe my mother preparing a meal, she did flow like the most clear and open, beautiful stream. And there were times when my father was firm and immovable. And so I did make so many comparisons such as this. I did like to observe the diligence of an ant as it did always stay on task, stay on mission, serving the greater whole of the anthill. And there are many other comparisons I could make, but I also did quite enjoy the times that I just took to sit and contemplate, to observe my mind, to observe my thoughts and my feelings. And so I did learn quite quickly that it did not feel the greatest for me to react as if I was a startled mouse or a snake who had been disturbed and struck out. I did quite prefer to be as a bird in the sky, or as a squirrel, jumping through the trees and sometimes feeling quite energized and even angry. And you might say it is funny and interesting for me to express the joy at being in that state, and yet I did find that interesting, especially in my younger years, to observe how people would react to me in that state of very high, scattered being, doing this and doing that, and shifting focus. Yet I did always have an overall goal in mind. And yes, of course, sometimes I did enjoy to express anger, like a squirrel shooing a bird away from a seed or an acorn. And so I did recognize that while there were many expectations, guidelines, and rules that my society was based around, at times they did seem disconnected, inefficient. It did seem that there were large gaps in what was presented, and many people were struggling to find a way, a path, or they were being given a path and they were struggling to find peace with this. And so I am wanting to bring this expression forward to you all and to this vehicle, especially that idea of supreme presence, awareness, observance. As I did always try and recognize a deeper understanding and significance to all things that I did observe. And so, especially in your period, where many are quite enthralled and caught up in various different pursuits that often do leave them feeling drained and disconnected and discombobulated. I am bringing forward the idea of recognizing the flow. And you do recognize this when you are observing another who is quite scattered and quite mindless, who is quite reactive and holding on to quite a heavy, quite a heavy burden from their life. And so you've recognized that the flow is jumpy, it is scattered, or it is stifled. Sometimes it does seem as if it is a swirl, going round and never moving forward. And then you do observe someone in a different state, such as if you've ever observed someone creating a work of art or working at a task or project that they do quite enjoy and are pouring their heart into. You do notice a deep focus. You do notice a deep flow. And so, what are you truly recognizing about the world around you? And what are you truly recognizing about the world inside of you? And so, this is why in my human life I did see a great need to translate my observances into something specific, something simple, a philosophy, you would say now. And yet, in my day, this was just a record of experience that I was mostly starting to create just to express my own self, with the goal in mind of seeing how it did come out and if I could do it, how it would benefit me to grow and expand myself. And yet, as I stated earlier, I did see quite a great deficit and need within my people. And so I did begin to think, perhaps I can be of service and benefit to others in my observances and experiences and expressions. And truly, really, this did just start as a hobby that I did express to a few different individuals, and to my surprise, it was very well received by many. And so this did encourage me further to be of service and to begin sharing more. Yet I did never expect, nor truly really did I want for my expressions to be revered or elevated or seen as a way of life. Truly, what I was trying to express was a way of being that did expand far beyond anything that I observed or recorded. It was an encouragement to be your own unique expression of being, and yet with a deeper observance, a deeper understanding and immersion, finding peace and comfort and love within all of the opportunities for growth and expansion that life did give. And so these are great opportunities, even now, in the very busy lives that many do have. There is always the opportunity to slow down and recognize the flow. as sometimes the stream does seem quite busy as well, and yet you do not see it grumbling or complaining when it does come up against an obstacle or barrier. It does simply flow around. It does simply flow over. And so this is much the same for all of you. What are those things that are in your life that you are allowing to stop you up or hold you back? And also with this, I would ask, how many of those things are boulders, are immovable pebbles that must be moved over or float around? And how many are essentially things that must be flowed into and released? As well, a stream is a great representation for a way of being. It is not all-encompassing, as there are many things that you are holding and rock steady on that can be broken down and released. And so you do see this is why what I was expressing was not a code of conduct or rules to live by. They were observations. And so, what are you observing? How are you wanting to expand and grow yourself? How are you expressing yourself? And how are you taking the time to fully love yourself and the life that you are living without being compliant to things that do not serve you? Are you forming yourself to fit into your life? Or are you shaping the landscape of your life like the floodwaters when they rise? Are you being held back and held down by yourself or by other things or other beings? Or are you expanding? And so this is why I do appreciate this conversation and these connections as truly reaching out beyond your physical lifetimes is a great choice for all to begin to explore and understand deeper. And so with that being said, I will essentially pull back into myself, my more full, expanded self, and allow for a brief explanation of why this was significant to share at this time. This was a great opportunity for all listening and for this vehicle to recognize and observe a wonderful expression of being human, of not getting caught up and caught in those challenges and those barriers that are placed around you all for very significant reasons. as was said, always wanting to grow and expand, and yet also dive in and understand more deeply. And so, in the lives that you are living today, it is quite easy to get caught up. It is quite easy to be held down. And so, this was brought forward to encourage mindfulness. Not exactly full mindedness, unless you would express that as a mind full of yourself, your true self. It is a mindfulness of moving through your lives, holding the remembrance of being more than just this life, holding the perspectives of being greater than just this human expression, and using that to show up and participate fully in a more expanded manner, seeing the opportunities for growth all around, in family and friends, in jobs, in nature, in how others express and show up, in recognizing and being responsible and accountable for how you do show up. And so this is a great opportunity for a deep contemplation on yourself. Who are you holding the identity of? And is it truly you? How are you expressing that? What does your inner world look like? And how closely do you observe and understand that? That is all. And I'm back. Very interesting. Um, yeah, very curious. Um, who's showing me a lot. Um, and it's interesting because while he was expressing pretty heavy on the observations, there was also a great aspect of participation in that. And he did express it a little bit with the squirrel and, the angry chatter, so to speak. But there's so much more than that. It's as if he was really deeply observing all of these things and then testing them out, refining them. The balance, I would say, between participation and awareness, and really being in tune with both of those, really bringing participation into the observation and vice versa, such as putting the leaf on the stream and allowing questions to flow and come up because of that, to bring a deeper observation and contemplation. Um, and also, I would say that balance between participating with the people that were around him and his society, and also himself, and also stepping back and just going out into nature, out into the world around. And yeah, there was just a flow between all of those things for him. It's very interesting. Definitely very profound with where I've been at lately and what's been going on with me. Um, just really having that flow and recognizing that flow around me. Um, and, what are the quote unquote barriers and challenges? What are the rocks in my stream? And what are the leaves that are just flowing along with me? And how is all of that serving me? Just a really deep sense of questioning. And I really do appreciate that for sure.